He grabbed my grandson's jersey and shoved him against the boards so hard the plexiglass rattled. "You're pathetic, Mitchell. My dog skates better than you." When I stood up from the bleachers, he turned to me with that smirk. "Sit down, old man. This is Triple-A hockey. What do you know about the game?" I said nothing. I pulled out my phone and made one call. 20 minutes later, the head of Ontario Minor Hockey Association was walking through those arena doors. The coach had no idea who he'd just disrespected. Let me back up. My name is Robert Chen, and I've lived in Toronto for 43 years. Came here from Vancouver in 1982, worked my way up from nothing, retired quietly 8 years ago. These days, I live in a modest bungalow in North York, drive a 15-year-old Camry, and spend my Saturdays watching my 12-year-old grandson play hockey. That's all most people see. An old Chinese man in a worn Maple Leafs toque, sitting alone in the cold rink, clapping politely when the kids score. They don't see the rest. They don't need to. My daughter Emily married a good man named David Pearson 7 years ago. Good family, middle-class folks from Mississauga. David works in IT. Emily's a nurse at Sunnybrook. They have 2 kids, Mitchell, 12, and Sophie, 9. Normal, happy family. They don't have River Oaks money. They don't have Bridle Path estates. They have a 3-bedroom, semi-detached in Scarborough and a minivan with 180,000 kilometers on it. But Mitchell can skate like the wind. The boy's been on ice since he was 4. Natural talent, the kind you can't teach. Quick hands, sees the ice like he's playing chess. When he made the Lakeshore Elite Triple-A Bantam team last September, Emily cried, "Triple-A is the top tier, the pathway to Junior A, maybe even the OHL if you're good enough. Scouts watch these games, college recruiters take notes. It's serious business." The program cost $8,000 for the season. Emily and David stretched their budget thin to make it happen. Extra shifts, no vacation, Sophie's dance classes put on hold. They did it because Mitchell loved the game, because he had a real shot. The head coach was a man named Brett Ashford. 42 years old, played 4 years of Junior A back in the 90s. Never made it to the show. Now, he ran this elite program like it was his personal fiefdom. Drove a Mercedes GLE. Wore expensive tracksuits. Always had the newest iPhone. His son played on the team too. Decent player, nothing special. But he got twice the ice time as anyone else. I started noticing things in October. The way Coach Ashford would single Mitchell out during drills. Make him do push-ups for minor mistakes while letting other kids slide. The comments about his size, Mitchell's small for his age, maybe 5'2" and 110 pounds. "You think you'll make the OHL at that size, Chen? Better hope you grow, or you're wasting everyone's time." Emily told me not to worry. "It's tough coaching, Dad. He's pushing Mitchell to be better. But I've been around hockey my whole life. I know the difference between tough coaching and something else." November brought the first real incident. Mitchell came home with a bruise on his ribs. Said he got cross-checked in practice. David asked if the kid got penalized. Mitchell went quiet. Turned out it was the coach's son who did it, and Ashford just laughed it off. "That's hockey, Mitchell. You want to play with the big boys? You take the hits." December, Mitchell stopped eating breakfast before practice. Emily found him throwing up in the bathroom one morning. He said his stomach hurt. She asked if something was wrong at hockey. He shook his head, but wouldn't look at her. I started attending more practices. That's when I saw it clearly. Ashford had his favorites, the kids whose parents drove Audis and BMWs, the ones who lived in Forest Hill and Rosedale, the parents who donated extra to the program, who could afford the spring tournament in Quebec, the summer hockey camps in the States. Those kids got the power play time, the one-on-one coaching, the praise. Kids like Mitchell, they were filler, bodies to scrimmage against. Ashford barely knew their names. I watched one practice where Mitchell made a beautiful breakaway goal. Top shelf, goalie had no chance. The kid was beaming as he skated back to the bench. Ashford didn't even look up from his clipboard. But when his son scored on a lucky bounce 5 minutes later, Ashford stopped practice to applaud. Mitchell's smile faded. He glanced at the stands, saw me watching. I gave him a thumbs up. He tried to smile back. That night, Emily called me. Mitchell had asked if they could switch to a different team. He says Coach Ashford doesn't like him. But Dad, we already paid the fees. We can't afford to lose that money and pay for another program. I told her I'd talk to the coach. Big mistake. I went to the rink the next Saturday, an hour before game time. Found Ashford in the coaching office, reviewing game tape. I knocked politely. Coach Ashford? I'm Robert Chin, Mitchell's grandfather. Do you have a moment? He barely glanced at me. I don't do parent meetings before games. Email me. I just wanted to discuss Mitchell's development. He seems to be getting less ice time than... Your grandson is small, slow, and soft. He still wasn't looking at me. This is elite hockey. If he can't keep up, maybe House League is more his speed. Now, if you don't mind, I'm busy. I stood my ground. He's one of your most skilled players. I've watched every game. His hockey IQ is... Now he looked up. You've watched every game? Let me guess. You played some beer league back in the day? Couple of seasons of shinny at the outdoor rink? He leaned back in his chair, smirking. This is AAA hockey, old man. These kids are training to go pro. I played Junior A. I know what it takes. You? You know nothing. I felt my jaw tighten, but I kept my voice calm. I just want to make sure he's being treated fairly. Fairly? He laughed. You want fair? Tell your daughter to pony up for some private lessons. Tell her to get Mitchell into a spring development program. Tell her to invest in her kid's future instead of expecting me to do charity work. This isn't a free ride. The family is already stretching their budget. Not my problem. He turned back to his laptop. My job is to develop players with potential. Mitchell, he's a warm body. Keeps the roster full. That's it. Now, get out of my office before I call security. I left, but I didn't leave the rink. I sat in the stands and watched the game. Mitchell got 4 shifts in the first period. Total ice time, maybe 3 minutes. He made a perfect saucer pass that led to a goal. Ashford wrote something on his clipboard, put Mitchell's line back on the bench for the rest of the period. Meanwhile, Ashford's son, who'd turned the puck over twice and taken a bad penalty, played every other shift. Emily and David were sitting a few rows down. I could see Emily's shoulders slump every time Mitchell sat on the bench, watching his teammates play. After the game, parents gathered in the lobby. The team had won 5-2. Ashford was holding court, talking about the tournament in Thunder Bay next month. We'll be facing the best teams in Ontario. This is where scouts will be watching. I'll be cutting ice time to our core players only. One parent asked who the core players were. Ashford read off 6 names. Mitchell wasn't on the list. Emily's face went pale. That $8,000 was for the full season, including tournaments. They'd already booked the hotel in Thunder Bay. Non-refundable. I walked over. Coach, can I ask why Mitchell isn't in the core group? Several parents turned to look. Ashford's smile turned cold. Because he doesn't have what it takes. Look, Mr. Chen, I get it. Every parent thinks their kid is the next Crosby, but Mitchell is a 4th liner at best. Maybe in a few years, if he hits a growth spurt, works on his skating, toughens up. But right now, he shrugged. He's taking up a roster spot that could go to a kid with real potential. David stepped forward. He's one of the top scorers on the team, against weak competition. Wait till we play Toronto Marlboros, North York Storm. Those teams will eat him alive. Ashford crossed his arms. I'm doing you a favor? Better he learns now that he's not elite material than waste more of your money. Emily's voice was shaking. We paid for the full season, and he'll get to practice with the team. Character building. Ashford turned away, dismissing us. I felt something snap inside me, but I kept quiet. David put his arm around Emily. Mitchell stood there in his equipment, staring at the floor. Other parents were whispering. Some looking sympathetic, others looking relieved. Their kids made the core group. We walked to the parking lot in silence. Mitchell took off his skate guards and threw them in the trunk. I told you he hates me. He's wrong about you, buddy, David said quietly. Doesn't matter. He's the coach. Mitchell climbed into the back seat. Emily was crying in the passenger seat. David looked at me, helpless. I drove home angry. Not just angry, furious. I'd stayed quiet for 40 years, kept my head down, let my work speak for itself. When I retired, I didn't make a big deal of it. Just a small ceremony, a handshake, a gold watch. My daughter didn't even know the full extent of what I'd done, who I'd worked with. I liked it that way. Privacy, simplicity. But watching that smug prick humiliate my grandson in front of everyone, watching Emily cry because they couldn't afford to fight back, watching Mitchell think he wasn't good enough when I knew the kid had real talent, enough. That night, I made some calls. Monday morning, I was at the rink again. Lakeshore Elite practice from 6 to 7 a.m. on weekdays. I arrived at 5:45, parked in my usual spot, waited. The kids hit the ice at 6. Ashford ran them through drills, barking orders, blowing his whistle. Mitchell was working hard, trying to prove himself. Ashford barely looked at him. At 6:30, the rink doors opened. 3 people walked in. I recognized them immediately. First was Janet Morrison, Director of Hockey Development for the Ontario Minor Hockey Association. Late 50s, gray hair, no-nonsense expression. She'd been in that role for 12 years, oversaw every AAA program in the province. Second was Tom Whitmore, owner of the Lakeshore Elite organization, wealthy real estate developer, owned 3 rinks across the GTA, ran the program as a prestige project. Third was Marcus Webb, former NHL player, now a scout for the Toronto Maple Leafs. I'd worked with Marcus for 15 years. They walked to the bench. Ashford saw them, confusion crossing his face. He skated over. "Tom? What's going on? We're in the middle of practice. We need to talk. Now." Tom's voice was ice cold. "Can it wait? We've got Thunder Bay tournament prep. Office. Now." Ashford looked at Morrison and Webb, then back at Tom. "What's this about?" "Robert Chen." Janet Morrison's voice cut through the arena. I saw Ashford's face change. Confusion, then recognition, then something close to fear. "Who?" "The old man you called ignorant on Saturday. The grandfather you told knows nothing about hockey." Morrison pulled out her phone, tapped the screen. The same Robert Chen who served as Director of Player Development for the Toronto Maple Leafs from 1989 to 2017. The same Robert Chen who scouted and developed 14 NHL first-round draft picks. The same Robert Chen who currently sits on the advisory board for Hockey Canada and the OMHA. Ashford's face went white. Marcus Webb stepped forward. "I got a call yesterday from Robert. He doesn't make calls like that unless something's seriously wrong. So, I made some calls of my own, talked to parents, reviewed practice footage, checked your roster decisions." He paused. "And I'm appalled." Tom Whitmore cut in. "In the past 3 seasons, you've had 15 kids quit the program mid-season. 15. All of them cited coaching issues. I ignored it because we were winning games. But when Robert Chen, a man I've respected for 30 years, tells me there's a problem with my program, I listen." Ashford tried to recover. "This is about Mitchell Chen? Look, the kid's small. He's not ready for elite level." "The kid," I said, speaking for the first time, "has better hockey sense than your son will ever have." Everyone turned. I walked down from the stands, stepped onto the ice in my boots. "You told me I know nothing about hockey. Let me educate you." I approached the boards. I started as an equipment manager with the Leafs in 1982, worked my way up. By 1989, I was scouting junior players across Canada. I discovered Matt Sundin in Sweden. I convinced the organization to draft him. "You know who Matt Sundin is, Brett?" Ashford said nothing. "I scouted Wendell Clark, Brian McCabe, Tomas Kaberle. I spent 28 years developing talent for the NHL. I've forgotten more about hockey than you've ever learned." I looked at Mitchell, who was staring at me with his mouth open. And when I watch my grandson play, I see something special. Not size, not strength, hockey IQ, vision, the intangibles you can't teach. I turned back to Ashford. "But you? You see a small kid with parents who can't afford your under-the-table private lessons. You see a roster spot that could go to some rich kid whose parents donate to your program. You're not developing players. You're running a pay-to-play scam." Janet Morrison nodded, "Which is why, effective immediately, the OMHA is launching a formal investigation into this program. We'll be reviewing your coaching practices, interviewing players and parents, examining your financial arrangements. Tom Whitmore added, "And you're suspended pending the investigation. Pack your office." Ashford's face went from white to red. "You can't do this! I've been with this program for 8 years. We've won 3 provincial championships. With players you didn't develop, players you inherited from good coaches and took credit for." Marcus Webb shook his head. "I've watched footage of this team. Your systems are mediocre. Your player development is non-existent. You're riding on the talent of kids whose parents paid thousands while you collected a salary and ran private lessons on the side." "This is bullshit," Ashford shouted. "All because some old man's grandson can't handle elite hockey?" I stepped closer to the boards, looked him dead in the eye. "My grandson can handle elite hockey. The question is whether elite hockey can handle coaches like you." I paused. "I made some calls yesterday. Talked to colleagues across Ontario. Turns out your reputation precedes you. 3 programs before this one. Same pattern every time. Favoritism, pay to play, kids quitting. You're a bully with a whistle. You self-righteous prick. Watch your mouth." Tom Whitmore's voice was sharp. "You're done. Security will escort you out. You have 1 hour to clear your belongings." As if on cue, 2 security guards appeared at the rink entrance. Ashford looked around, wild-eyed. Some of the parents had gathered near the stands, watching. The kids had stopped skating, standing in confused clusters on the ice. "This is because of him?" Ashford pointed at me. "You're destroying my career because some retired scout made a phone call?" "No," Janet Morrison said quietly. "Your career is destroyed because you forgot what coaching is supposed to be about. Developing kids, teaching them to love the game, building character." She gestured at Mitchell, still frozen on the ice. "That boy out there, he loves hockey. You were killing that love. And that's unforgivable." Ashford grabbed his whistle, his clipboard, skated off the ice. As he passed me, he leaned in. "You think you won? That kid will never make it. Too small, too soft. Just like his grandfather, too old, too washed up to matter anymore." I didn't react, just watched him storm off toward the office, security following. Tom Whitmore turned to the parents and kids. "Practice is canceled for today. We'll be bringing in an interim coach and conducting a full review. Any parents who wish to discuss concerns about the program, please contact my office. We'll be making this right." He walked over to me, extended his hand. "Robert, I owe you an apology. This should never have happened in my program." I shook his hand. "Just make sure the kids are taken care of." He nodded, then headed to the office. Marcus Webb came over, clapped me on the shoulder. "Retirement's made you soft, Chen. Old you would have made that call after the first incident. Old me didn't have grandkids to think about." I smiled slightly. He laughed. "Fair enough. Listen, I'm watching the tournament in Thunder Bay next month. I want to see the grandson play. Sounds like he's got it." "He does." Marcus headed out. Janet Morrison stopped to talk briefly, assured me the OMHA would be thorough in their investigation, then left. I stood there in the empty rink. The kids were sitting on the benches now, taking off their skates. Parents were gathered in small groups, whispering. Some were crying parents whose kids had been struggling under Ashford, relieved it was over. Mitchell skated over to the boards, stopped right in front of me. "Grandpa, you worked for the Leafs?" I nodded. "Why didn't you ever tell us?" "Because it doesn't matter. What matters is you and your sister and your mom. Hockey was my job. Family is my life." His eyes were wet. "Coach Ashford said I wasn't good enough. Coach Ashford is an idiot." I reached through the gap in the boards, squeezed his shoulder. "You're good enough, Mitchell. You're more than good enough. And anyone who can't see that doesn't deserve to coach you." He wiped his eyes. "Did you really discover Matt Sundin?" I smiled. "I'll tell you about it over dinner. Now go get changed. Your mom's probably worried." He nodded, skated back to the bench. Emily appeared beside me. She'd been crying. "Dad, I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything. You called the OMA? You knew the owner?" "I made a few calls. I've been in hockey a long time, Emily. I know people." She hugged me. "Thank you." Mitchell was miserable. He didn't want to quit because he knew how much we'd sacrificed. But every practice was breaking him down. No kid should go through that. Not for a game they love. David joined us, shook my hand firmly. I had no idea about your background. Why didn't you ever talk about it? Because when I'm with you, I'm not Robert Chen the scout. I'm just Grandpa. I glanced at Mitchell, who was laughing with a teammate now, the weight visibly lifted from his shoulders. That's all I need to be. The interim coach they brought in was Karen Mitchell, a former national team player who actually knew how to develop young talent. She watched Mitchell in the first practice, pulled Emily aside afterward. Your son has incredible vision. His skating needs work, but his hockey sense is off the charts. With the right coaching, he could play at the next level. Emily called me that night, voice shaking with happiness. Did you hear what Coach Mitchell said? I did. Dad. Mitchell's been smiling all day. He's excited for practice tomorrow. He hasn't been excited in months. I felt something loosen in my chest. Good. That's how it should be. The OMHA investigation took 3 weeks. They interviewed 42 current and former players, 26 parents, and reviewed financial records going back 5 years. What they found was damning. Brett Ashford had been running private lessons and pocketing the cash without reporting it to the organization. He'd been accepting donations from parents in exchange for more ice time for their kids. He'd cut players from teams not based on skill, but on whether their parents could afford his extra fees. In total, he'd made over $60,000 in unreported income over 3 years. The OMA revoked his coaching certification. Ontario Hockey Federation banned him from coaching any sanctioned program. Tom Whitmore issued a public apology and refunded families who could prove they'd paid for private lessons under coercion. Several parents came forward with stories similar to ours. Kids who'd quit hockey entirely because Ashford destroyed their confidence. One mother told me her son had stopped eating and developed anxiety attacks before games. He was 9 years old. The Thunder Bay tournament came in late January. Mitchell was part of the core group now. Karen Mitchell played him on the second line, power play, penalty kill. The kid was everywhere. Third game of the tournament, Mitchell scored 2 goals and had 3 assists. After the game, a scout from the Peterborough Pettis introduced himself to David, said he'd be watching Mitchell's development. Emily called me from the hotel, crying again, but happy tears this time. February brought a call from Marcus Webb. He'd been tracking Mitchell's progress. Your grandson is something special, Robert. Keep him in the program. Keep him developing. I'm putting him on my watch list. I didn't tell Mitchell about the call. Didn't want to put pressure on him. But I did take him out for lunch that Saturday after practice. We went to a diner in Markham, ordered burgers and fries. Mitchell was talking non-stop about hockey, about the new plays Coach Karen was teaching them, about the summer camp he wanted to attend. Then he got quiet. Grandpa, can I ask you something? Of course. When Coach Ashford said all that stuff about me being too small, not good enough, did you ever think he might be right? I put down my burger, looked at him seriously. Never. Not for 1 second. How did you know? Because I've been watching hockey for 60 years, Mitchell. I know talent when I see it. But more than that, I know heart. And you have more heart than any kid I've ever watched. I paused. Talent gets you on the ice. Heart keeps you there. You've got both. He nodded slowly. I'm glad you made that call. Me too. Do you think I can make it? Like, really make it? I thought about how to answer. Thought about all the talented kids I'd seen over the years who never made it because they didn't get the right coaching, the right breaks, the right support. I think you have a shot. A real shot. But it's going to take work. Lot of early mornings, lot of sacrifices, lot of disappointments along the way. The question is, do you love the game enough to fight for it? Yes. Then that's all that matters. The rest will take care of itself. We finished our lunch. As we walked to the car, he asked, Can you tell me about Matt Sundin now? I smiled. Get in. I'll tell you the whole story. That spring, Lakeshore Elite made it to the provincial finals. They lost in overtime, but it was the best season the program had ever had. Mitchell was named to the All-Star team. At the season-end banquet, Tom Whitmore gave a speech about the importance of integrity in youth sports. He thanked the parents for their patience during the investigation. He announced that the program was implementing new policies, transparent tryouts, financial assistance for families who needed it, mandatory coaching education on player development and mental health. Then he did something unexpected. He called me to the podium. Most of you don't know this, but we have hockey royalty in our organization. Robert Chen spent nearly 3 decades with the Toronto Maple Leafs, scouting and developing some of the greatest players in franchise history. He's also the grandfather of one of our players. He gestured to Mitchell. Robert, we'd like to offer you a position as special advisor to the program. Help us train our coaches, evaluate our systems, make sure we're developing kids the right way. What do you say? I looked at Emily. She was smiling, nodding. I looked at Mitchell. He was beaming. I'd be honored, I said. The room erupted in applause. Afterward, parents came up to thank me. Some apologized for not speaking up sooner about Ashford. Some asked for advice about their kids' development. I talked to each of them, offered what help I could. One father pulled me aside. His son had been one of Ashford's favorites, got lots of ice time, made the core group. I feel terrible. I knew something wasn't right, but my kid was benefiting, so I stayed quiet. I should have said something. You're saying something now. That's what matters. He shook his head. Your grandson was being destroyed, and you fought back. You risked making waves, being the difficult parent, all of it. I don't know if I would have had that courage. It's not courage when it's your family. It's just what you do. That summer, Mitchell went to a development camp at York University. Came home with new skills, new confidence, new dreams. He talked about playing in the OHL someday, maybe even the NHL if he was lucky enough. I didn't tell him that Marcus Webb had called me again. Said Mitchell was tracking ahead of where he should be. Said to keep doing whatever we were doing. I didn't tell Emily that I'd been contacted by 2 other AAA programs in the GTA, asking if I'd consult on their coaching standards. I didn't tell David that the Omaha wanted me to help develop a new certification program for youth coaches, focused on player-first development. I just watched my grandson play hockey. Watched him love the game again. Watched him grow. One Saturday in August, we were at the outdoor rink near my house. Just the 2 of us, shooting pucks. It was early morning, maybe 7 a.m., cool breeze, sun just coming up. Mitchell was working on his wrist shot. I was feeding him pucks, calling out tips. Follow through. Weight transfer. Good. Again. He fired another shot. Top corner. The kid's release was getting quicker. Grandpa? Yeah? Thanks for not giving up on me. I stopped feeding pucks. Looked at him. I'll never give up on you, Mitchell. Not ever. He nodded. Wiped his eyes with his glove. I know. We kept shooting until the sun was fully up. Then we packed up the pucks. Drove to Tim Hortons for breakfast. Sat in the car, drinking hot chocolate, talking about the upcoming season. This was what mattered. Not the titles I'd held, not the players I'd discovered, not the championships or the accolades. This. A morning at the rink with my grandson, teaching him the game I loved, protecting him when he needed it, being there. That's what family does. Later that week, I got a call from Brett Ashford's lawyer. He was considering legal action for defamation, wrongful termination, emotional distress. I laughed, told the lawyer to do whatever he thought was necessary, reminded him that everything I'd said was documented fact, supported by the OMHA investigation. Mentioned that I had statements from 26 families detailing Ashford's behavior. Never heard from them again. October brought the start of a new season. New team, new coach, new opportunities. Mitchell was playing with confidence now. Smiling on the ice, when he made a mistake, he shook it off and kept playing. When he succeeded, he celebrated with his teammates. At the first parent meeting, Karen Mitchell laid out her philosophy. Hockey should be fun. It should teach life skills. It should build character. Yes, we want to win, but not at the cost of destroying kids' love for the game. Every player on this team matters. Every player will be developed. Every player deserves respect. The parents applauded. After the meeting, Emily hugged me. This is what it should have been all along. Yes, you made this happen. We made this happen. You and David, refusing to let Mitchell quit. Mitchell, for staying strong, All of us. David joined us. I still can't believe you worked for the Leafs all those years and never mentioned it. I shrugged. It was just a job. It was more than a job, Dad, Emily said quietly. You shaped hockey in this country. You developed future Hall of Famers. And you never once bragged about it. Because that's not what matters. What matters is right there. I pointed at Mitchell, who was laughing with his teammates, taping his stick. That's my legacy, not the players I scouted. Him, you, Sophie. The family we've built. That's what I'm proud of. The season went well. Mitchell continued to develop. Made the All-Star team again. Got invited to a Hockey Canada development camp. In March, Marcus Webb called. I'm coming to watch Mitchell's game on Saturday. Want to grab dinner after? We went to a steakhouse in Mississauga. Marcus ordered wine. We caught up on old times. Then he got serious. Your grandson is legitimate, Robert. He's small, yeah. But his hockey IQ is off the charts. He sees plays developing 3 steps ahead. That's not something you can teach. I know. He reminds me of someone. Who? Marcus smiled. You. When you were scouting, you always saw things other people missed. The intangibles, the character. You didn't just evaluate players, you understood them. Mitchell has that same quality on the ice. He understands the game. He works hard. It's more than work. It's instinct. Marcus paused. I'm not making any promises. The kid's got a long way to go. But if he keeps developing, if he keeps loving the game, if he gets the right opportunities, he's got a shot. I nodded. That's all any kid can ask for. A shot. We finished dinner. Talked about the Leafs' playoff chances, about changes in the league, about players we'd both scouted who'd made it big. As we walked to our cars, Marcus stopped me. You did the right thing, you know, calling me about Ashford. That guy was destroying kids. Someone needed to stop him. I almost didn't. Almost let it go. What changed your mind? I thought about Mitchell, crying in the car after being humiliated. About Emily, trying to stay strong for her son. About all the other kids who'd quit hockey because of coaches like Ashford. I realized that staying quiet wasn't protecting my family. It was failing them. Sometimes you have to fight, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it makes waves. Because if you don't stand up for the people you love, who will? Marcus nodded. Your grandson's lucky to have you. I'm lucky to have him. I drove home through the quiet streets of Toronto. Thought about the path that had brought me here. From a young equipment manager with big dreams to a scout who'd helped build a franchise. From that role to retirement. From retirement to this being a grandfather, a protector, an advocate. Some people might think I'd wasted my connections on something small. One kid, one coach, one youth hockey program. Why make such a big deal? But they didn't understand. This wasn't small. This was everything. When I got home, there was a message on my phone. From Mitchell. Hi, Grandpa. Just wanted to say thanks for coming to the game today. I scored that goal because of the tip you gave me about weight transfer. Love you. See you Saturday. I saved the message, sat in my dark living room, smiling. 43 years ago, I came to this country with nothing. Worked my way up through sheer determination. Built a career I was proud of. But in the end, none of that mattered as much as this moment. A grandson who felt loved, supported, protected. That's what I'd fought for. That's what the phone call had been about. Not revenge. Not ego. Just love. Just family. The rest was noise. Saturday came. I put on my old Leafs toque, drove to the rink, bought a coffee from the concession stand, found my usual spot in the bleachers, watched the kids warm up. Mitchell saw me, waved. I waved back. The puck dropped. The game began, and I watched my grandson play hockey, the game we both loved, in a program that finally valued him. That was enough. That was everything.